I'm trying to use the mouse for my laptop computer. There's so many computers and junk everywhere.
That's where you get your kids to help.
Oh my God.
After they can figure it out.
Just so you're aware, the stream is still going out live.
Thank you.
Just be mindful.
Lisa? Dante wants to say hi.
Hi, Dante.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
How old are you?
4.
4. Wow.
I said I'm 4.
4? That's a big number. Wow.
Want to tell her good night?
You look much older. You look at least like you're 6.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night, Dante. Hey, cutie. Hey, are we back? I can't see my full screen.
Not everybody's back yet.
Okay.
They're still stretching those legs after the long public safety meeting.
Woo.
Like,
I had to get up to go take a walk around the block.
Yeah, that meeting ran right to the wire, I guess.
Did you see any unusual cars during your walk?
At least 1 or 2, yes.
You check some doors to see if they were locked or unlocked.
You know, you laugh, but I will have the camera, the floodlight camera with an alarm, and Trish will come down after me to go to bed, and I'll be there watching the camera. You know, I mean, it just dominates your mindset. I turn the siren on every once in a while, but the cars that go by set the alarm off, so I'm having a problem desensitizing it so that it only turns on when the car comes far enough down into the driveway.
And when I throw my garbage out, neighbors next door's lights all go on.
Yeah.
You should stop throwing it over your fence in your yard.
Broadway show.
Hey, Captain Obvious.
We have everybody back that's coming back.
I'm here, but I'm gonna have my video off.
Okay. We can't blame you, John. You had that long meeting before, so.
oh, but IT John Malero's not coming if you're waiting for him. And is Punkage out also?
Yes.
Yeah, so
think we just have to have a motion and we get started because everything's still been recording, so.
Okay, so I'm just gonna get started.
I'll make a motion to come out of recess.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great, so we're going to move right into public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov, and you will be provided with a link to attend the Zoom remote meeting and instructions on how you will participate. I'm just going to go to my list and ask that when you come in to speak, that you state your name and your address, please. So first in the queue is Ed Ciccarello.
Mayor, I'm getting a video. I'm getting something to say. I'm unable to start my video because the host has stopped it. So IT John, if you want to unstop me from the video. There you go. Start my video. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mayor Murado and Council. Tonight, I'm coming to you to encourage you to pass the resolution to join Sustainable Connecticut. I highly encourage the town's participation in it. With all the issues surrounding us right now, I know sustainability might, to some, be inconsequential, but it's not to me, and it's not to my son and future generations. Recently, I learned about the Golden Rule 2.0 recently, which is, love your neighbor as you love yourself, but you also have to think about the future generations. And so I think if you can pass a resolution tonight to become part of Sustainable Connecticut, that will continue pointing us in the right direction. I think Rocky Hill, I think we as a town are doing pretty well. I mean, if I could tick off a couple of things, I mean, if we look at our solar farm, you look at the fact that we just bought a farm, right? Trails and composting, there's a lot of great things that are going on. Can we do more? Can it be better? Absolutely. And I think that when we get those lists, of Sustainable Connecticut, the list, and we just start ticking through those and we start making some plans for the future. We're in this together. It's not to be an individual anymore. The time is now. There's not a lot of time left in regards to climate change. You don't hear me talk about climate change a lot, but it's there, and it's there. So I appreciate you all doing it, going down this road, and I highly support it. Thank you very much, Mayor, for giving me the time.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we're going to move on. Our next speaker is no longer in attendance, so we're going to move to Michael Maluccio. You state your name and address for the record, please. I'm just going to scroll and see if I see his name. We can circle back to you, Michael, if you are having some difficulties. I'm just going to, in the interest of time, move on to the next person in the queue, who should be Denise Connors. Okay, I'm Denise, again, same with you. If you're having some issues or just whatever it might be, jump back in, let us know when you're ready, as long as we're in public comments still. Kristen Capizzo, which I think is your maiden name. I'm not sure if you're still going to speak today. I believe some of these folks have just finished speaking at the prior public safety meeting. Vipul Shaw. John Roderick. I think I've got a message that John Roderick is stepping off. Gina Oresco.
Hi, I just spoke at the last meeting. I don't know if it'd be beneficial to speak again, or should we just, do you want me to speak again, or?
That's up to you. I mean, it's a different forum and it's a different audience. So
Right.
I think it's beneficial that, you know,
Okay.
you signed up and certainly we would love to hear from you. It's not redundant if that's what you're asking.
Yes, that's what I was like. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm Gina Oresco. I live at 40 Murphy Drive in Rocky Hill. So we are, the neighborhood is rather concerned about property crime. And we have a lot of situations going on around here, and a lot of young children were very nervous about it. So we have seen a lot more police presence in the last maybe few days, week. And I did go up to one of the police officers and thank them and tell them we noticed. And what I realized from the conversation is a lot of the neighbors and people around town, we have the Ring app, we have text messaging, we're text messaging our friends and our neighbors. Our neighborhood now has a WhatsApp, and we're all, so anybody in the neighborhood can join it and keep in touch with each other. And so we have all these ways so that we know what's going on, and we hear about this person saw this and this person saw that and all these property crimes happening, but I don't know if it's all getting to the police or the rest of the town or anyone else who needs to actually know about it because they're not on our apps. So that's why I wanted to share it. So basically we have had a lot of car thefts started. The thieves started coming into people's garages now, which is I think kind of upped people's nervousness. We have a lot of children in the neighborhood. I know mine don't go out to play without an adult around any longer. My daughter used to drive to the end of the road and with her bike, and we don't do that anymore because we're too worried about it. I don't ever want anything to happen to her. God forbid that somebody was committing a crime while she was driving by, right? I mean, what would they even do to her? I don't even know. Or any of our children. I know that one day, this doesn't always happen at night. So one day she just had gotten on the bus and a car was speeding up our road, and we looked, and the neighbor and I were like, why is this person coming so quickly up our road? And it was a police officer. And he was asking us if we had seen a car because somebody was just committing crimes. Now this is like the time where all the buses and the children are out. It's daylight at this point. It was daylight. So it's very scary that they don't care about what time it is anymore. Our street in our neighborhood happens to be a very desirable place to commit these crimes because it's kind of shaped like an H where there's a U-turn. So if you go in one side, you go out a totally different side. You're on France Street. The traffic travels fast. We're right near the highway. And there's so many people and so many little kids, as you can see in the background. They're very distracting. And it's so easy for any of us to leave our keys in the car by accident or say we'll be right back and forget. We had one more bag of groceries in the car, so we didn't lock the car or whatever. I mean, there's so many people in this neighborhood. We're always going to forget something. Somebody's always going to forget someone's always going to get distracted. So these guys are going to keep hitting our neighborhood, and they're going to keep getting hits because we're human and people are going to keep making mistakes. Nobody's leaving their garages open on purpose. No one's leaving their cars unlocked on purpose. And we're trying to be more diligent. Like I said, we have the WhatsApp now, and we're really trying to pull it together and make sure we're vigilant about keeping everything locked up. But again, that's kind of crazy. I mean, if I have company come over, my sister-in-law, I tell her, "Is your car locked?" Don't even stop to give her a hug. "Is your car locked?" And she looks at me like I'm crazy. But really, God forbid that her car get jacked while she's at my house visiting. So my kids are getting a little crazy, and I know the 2 minutes is probably near. We have noticed that some things have been done, and we really do appreciate it. So I just wanted to say my piece and for our neighborhood. And, hope it helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oresco. Have a good evening. Next on our list is Jacqueline Farnham. Okay, and then I have a Deanna Drapo. So I suspect that most of these people have dropped off because they were just participants in our 2-hour public safety meeting. And I do have one write-in comment, I have to find that.
Everybody should have got a email from Kristen Mariner. Is that the one you're talking about, Lisa?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Would you like me to?
Do you have it on your?
Kristen, I have a copy of it in my hands.
Thank you, because I'm looking it up. Thank you.
I don't know if you called
Okay.
my name yet. It's Jacqueline Farnham. I was kicked out of audio.
So yeah, we moved off of public comment. We did call your name, Jacqueline, but we can circle back. We're just reading.
I find that very ironic. That right.
Hey, excuse me one moment. I can't communicate with you, but we are actually in the middle of another public comment right now, and then I will circle back to you. So just hold tight. Okay, John.
Okay, I believe Kristen Mariner sent an email to all the town councilors, and she's asked that it be read into the record. So this is a letter from Krista Mariner, 58 Farms Village Road. Dear members of the town council, happy Mardi Gras. I would appreciate if my letter could be read into the record, as I won't be able to participate via Zoom. That's why I would like to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution to change the method of public speaking during virtual meetings to only Zoom. We are a year into the global pandemic. I am pleased that you have been able to meet via Zoom, and that with an extensive assistance of IT, you presumably became experts in this method of communication. In addition, I assume the town pays the monthly fees to Zoom to allow for your meetings. Zoom is not free. Not everyone has access to Zoom. Not everyone can download the Zoom app or even figure out how to use it. Not everyone has adequate internet access, particularly seniors on fixed incomes who often use the library for their internet access. Access to computers at the library is restricted during the COVID pandemic to ensure patron safety. Asking people to participate via Zoom for public comment is quite frankly discriminatory, social economically, and discriminatory by age. No, discriminatory but social economically and discriminatory by age. It is also discriminatory to those who cannot access the library for in-person Zoom instruction because of health concerns related to the pandemic. I am flabbergasted at this proposed resolution. It is only going to have the unintended consequence of silencing the voices of the residents of Rocky Hill. I would like to offer a prudent and feasible alternative. When the town council met in the council chambers, if a member of the public could not be present at the meeting, clerk to the council, Joanne Booth, would read submitted correspondence into the record. Perhaps Joanne should be asked to participate in the council meetings going forward. Thank you for your consideration for this matter. Krista Mariner.
Okay, thank you. And then moving back to our other list, we will recall Jacqueline Farnham. If you can state your name and your address, please.
Okay, and I apologize because somehow I got kicked off my phone call right before my name was called. And I do this for a living, so that was curious to me. I have to say that I do, I'll try to keep it short, but I want to, after hearing what Ed say, I also want to urge you to pass the resolution to participate in Sustainable Connecticut. And one of the reasons is because we, some of the smaller groups that are not nonprofits, the Walk Bike Club and other groups that need to raise money can use Sustainable Connecticut as a sponsor and when going out for the Hartford Foundation gifts that are coming to us eventually. And those gifts have to go to a nonprofit and cannot go to the town. So it's just not viable for these groups to become C3s, and Sustainable Connecticut can help us as a sponsor. I also echo the comments of Krista, and to be fair to all residents in this town, on how you take public comment. But I am hearing tonight to talk to you the third time to request the council go into executive session. And I just want to preface this by saying, I know I sound angry. Okay, I'm angry about this situation. I'm not angry at any one particular person here. And I'm grateful for Mimi because she has been listening. She is the only one that has been listening. And so I ask you for the third time to go into executive session to discuss possible new litigation to minimize the risk 60 West poses to our children and families. 60 West rehabs paroled, meaning free to come and go, criminals of all ages, including a pedophile who murdered children and raped 100 boys. This congregate of criminals is operating less than 500 feet from Mosier School and now accepting notorious pedophiles from other states. Rocky Hill is the new dumping ground for hard-to-place criminals who need rehab. The town attorney in executive session could also give the town council an overview of the history of the litigation. None of the current councils were on the council in 2012 when the town litigation started against Secure Care. So over the last 8 years, every town council has worked on this issue except this council. So shame on you. Here are a couple of new arguments. A long-term care attorney told me that 60 West, confirmed, I talked to an attorney, was created under a law which only allows for Connecticut DMOS and DOC criminals. Accepting a Massachusetts patient is beyond the scope. The town attorney could review the purpose of 17B-372A to determine if accepting an out-of-state criminal exceeds what is allowed by this law. Only placements by DOC or DMOS is allowed. And if this continues to be allowed, what is to prevent Secure Care from bringing in rehabbing criminals into Rocky Hill from all over the country? Another action to mitigate the risk would be to propose a new ordinance or zoning law that specifically limits how close congregate housing for sex offenders can be from a school where there are children under age 18. Other towns have done this, and there are examples. We won the lawsuit against Secure Care. We spent a lot of money that said that they have to abide by our zoning regs. Okay, I understand that their use it does abide by our zoning regs. Okay, but it's their patients that have changed. So this is easy. Create a new zoning reg that prohibits congregate criminal housing near a school and limit what they can do, even if you have to grandfather in what's already been done so far. Let's prevent more. The other thing you can do is the Community Response Education Program or Civil Law Commitment Law, CGS 54-261. This allows for a community meeting initiated after the notification of an offender that will reside in town. After Wayne Chapman, I refer to him, I'm assuming you all know who he is by now, his sentence expired in Massachusetts, he was held in confinement for several more years under their civil commitment laws. That can be looked into. I also request a special council meeting as a public forum, similar to what you did for last Wednesday on property crime. So if you can hold one for property crime, then why not address the criminals being brought into 60 West? Please, I am begging you, and I will not go away, take action on what for many residents in this town is a very urgent issue, and your lack of action is complicity. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Farnham. Moving on to appointments and resignations. Councillor Duff, do you have any?
We don't.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Sharmat, do you have any?
Madam Mayor, no appointments or resignations at this time.
Okay. Approval of the minutes, the town council meeting from February 1st, 2021, which you all have in your packet. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Madam Mayor, to accept the minutes of the February 1st, 2021 meeting.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, subcommittee reports, beginning with finance. Mr. Greenspan?
The Finance Committee did meet on February 11th. On our consent agenda this evening, we passed a motion for the emergency management grant resolution, which we do annually. And that is item A on the consent agenda. The Craig Bowman from Parks and Rec came to our meeting and talked about repairs for the outdoor pool as well as the pool at the high school. The proposal that he received was for painting, and there was two options within. One was to have the pools sandblasted and painted, which will probably last about 5 years is an estimated time frame, and that would be the kiddie pool and the main pool at Elmridge Park. That would run $42,000 approximately. If we opted not to do the sandblasting, that would be a $21,000 expenditure. And the high school pool has a leak in the drain, and that would be about a $6,600 expenditure. Now, these items were items, these items would come from within the existing budget. So it would be a line item adjustment coming from part-time salaries. However, in recent weeks, we've had a whole bunch of winter weather, which is eating into our snow budget. So we've requested that they come back in March meeting. We'll have a better handle, and then we can discuss if we could justify this within the current budget. We had a discussion on bonding. We have $11.35 million of bond anticipation notes coming due July 29th. And in speaking with the town manager, the recommendation is we will go out to bonding. That $11.35 million is made up of the remaining balance of the high school renovation project for $2.25 million, the senior community center project for $7.1 million, and the road improvement project that was passed by referendum for $2 million. And we will be working with bond counsel to move that forward. So that's more just informational. We also got an update on our defined benefit pension valuations. And in this year's coming budget, just some general information. The general employee pension fund, the recommended contribution is going from $430,000 to $464,739. So an increase of $34,492. We made a change approximately 2 years ago to both the fire department and the ambulance pension programs. And we will be, the recommended contribution increase in the fire department is from $28,163 to $167,283, an increase of $139,120. And lastly, the ambulance recommended contribution went from $3,312 to $72,542, an increase of $69,230. So that's a total increase of almost $243,000, which is slightly more than $0.1 of a mil increase that will be discussed during this year's budget. Let's see, on the FEMA side, the town has received or had expenditures of $26,178 and it has received $19,634 from FEMA and $6,545 from OPM. The ambulance had $51,995 in expenditures, of which $6,092 will be reimbursed from FEMA and $45,904 will be reimbursed from OPM. The Board of Education also had previously sent a letter to the Finance Committee seeking that we take money that was in the capital improvement budget and allocate them to their operational budget in the amount of $230,179. And that again is just a line item adjustment within their budget. And that is item B on the consent agenda. The next finance meeting is March 11th at 6 p.m.
Ellen, why is there such a jump in the increase of contributions on the fire department side?
It was a change in the pension plan that was made, I want to say 2.5 years ago, increasing the amount of pension benefits to the volunteers.
So like a contractual thing,
Yes.
kind of, yeah, okay. Thank you. Government ops?
Government Operations has not had a meeting since our last town council meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 1st.
Thank you. Okay, public safety?
Sure. We had a presentation this evening by the Connecticut Central Health District, but I know you're addressing COVID in your mayor's report, so I will jump on to our ambulance report, which was 367 calls, 78 strong in staffing, no incidents to report, all is well. Emergency management, James Bellinger was certified for training on 2 different levels statewide, and he did get his grant and that he applied for earlier, and we also were able to get our vaccination dates set. The first one is February 20th, I believe, John Mayer, right?
February 20th is the first one for primarily people over 75 years old, and it's 50, and I'm muted. Oh, I'm not.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm surprised. And then there's 50 dosage. And then you're going to talk about the second one, Ed, that they got, or you want me to?
You, please.
Okay. Then the health district was able to get 100 additional dosage and vaccines, and they're planning to have a vaccine clinic on the 27th for those over 65 years old. So, and then 4 weeks later for each of those would be the second dosage, the March 20th and February 27th. And people can sign up for these clinics by calling Human Services, and Human Services, Emergency Management, and the health districts working together to coordinate these vaccines.
He did also mention that there was a possibility of a mass vaccination site being targeted for the Berlin Fairgrounds at somewhere down the line in the late summer.
Yeah, that's Charles Brown mentioned that I believe he was planning on trying to coordinate something like that, but it wouldn't be until, as you said, at early to midsummer.
Yep. Fire department, or go to the police. 53 incidents. Oh, wait a second. Excuse me. Hold on. Calls for service in January. 2,946 calls for service. 14 criminal arrests. 207 training hours. There's 1 officer vacancy only. 1 officer in the academy in process. 5 officers that are in their field training, which normally lasts around, I think it's about 6 months when they're in field training. They're not out on patrol alone, but they'll be hitting the streets as soon as they finish that up. 1 officer out with COVID, and as far as stolen cars go, they reported 5 stolen and 7 with vandalism, stuff stolen from cars for the month. The police did respond to John, did you want to add something to that? No.
No, before I forget, I didn't know whether we mentioned about those vaccine clinics were being held at Mosier School.
Yep, Mosier School, yes. Mosier School is the site until further notice. The police responded to a very powerful public participation tonight at Public Safety with 14 members of 16 members of the public actually signing on and speaking. The Public Safety meeting ran a full 2 hours, could have gone longer. So we appreciate all that public comment. It really does matter to us. The police did lay out a very good proposal for a more assertive policing program in Rocky Hill. And 2 officers assigned to head that up as Officer Morgan and Officer Gutfeld. They've established a task force. And the task force is a specific stolen car task force with 1 member from the 5-town collaborative. The 5-town collaborative is a collaboration that is been ongoing, but is a strong relationship between Cromwell, Rocky Hill, Berlin, Weathersfield, Newington. Did I leave one out? In any event, pardon?
Cromwell?
Cromwell. Berlin, yep. So so they're working in collaboration now to and they're also working in collaboration with the state. The state has a Hartford task force. It's where it's like an intelligence clearing center. So they've got a property crime intelligence center operating out of Hartford that Rocky Hill has specifically hooked up with. The town is engaging in DNA swabbing of vandaled cars, stolen cars that are recovered. So they'll do DNA swabbing and putting them into a database. The police will be stepping up and have stepped up physical patrols of our neighborhoods, our streets, and they will actually start doing more stops, such as traffic violation stops along our roads. So be mindful of that as you're driving along, as the police will be having more checkpoints and stops around town to increase our presence on the street. I think that about does it. We were assured by Chief Custer that while additional patrol officers are being requested of him, officers in leadership role are taking a patrol. So they are out on the street. As for fire, 53 incidents, 135 training hours, 70 active volunteer fire. They have 4 people out, 1 due to illness, 2 due to FMLA. They are still seeing tremendous volunteer participation on each call, averaging about 18 members per call. And that about wraps it up. Our next, unless you can think of anything, John, I think that covers it. The story of the day was the public participation. The next meeting for public safety is March 15th, but back at the regular time of 5:30, John?
Yes. Yes, we're back to Mondays.
Oh, back to Monday, March 15th, right? Yep.
Yeah, 5:30. Then just to clarify that database on property crime, it's being run by the Hartford Police Department. And we're feeding the information because that's usually the genesis of a lot of the crime that inflicts the suburbs.
I'll mention the state representatives' participation at that meeting at the liaison to state rep and state senator report. The state representative, Kerry Wood, was on that entire meeting and conversed back and forth with our law enforcement and is working behind the scenes with our law enforcement as well, and has drafted some bills. So we'll put that into her report.
Okay, thank you. Is there a report on senior liaison?
Madam Mayor, before we do the senior liaison, I missed 2 items. If I may go back on finance, and I apologize for that. The one item that very relevant, the Central Connecticut Health District issued a request for $20,000 of additional funding, which would come out of money we received from the state. We've asked Charlie Brown to come to our March meeting and explain a little bit detail of how that money would be used. So that request will be forthcoming. The second piece that I should have mentioned, we also had a brief discussion on Straska Farm. And hopefully by March, we'll have a better idea of some costs associated with remediation of the scrap metal on the property and potentially some costs on removing the structures from the property. And again, that's preliminary, but we are trying to move that forward. I just wanted to get that into the record.
Okay.
Senior liaison has not met since our last council meeting. Our next meeting is the 22nd of February at 5 p.m.
Great, thank you. Land acquisition and farmland preservation.
We have not had a meeting since the last one. Our next meeting is March 23rd.
Okay. And then liaison to the state rep and state senator.
Sure. None from the state senators. The state representative attended the public safety meeting tonight and other meetings around town concerning the car theft crime issue, and has had extensive meetings with our police chief to go over the mayor, as you like to call it, the three-pronged approach. There's the state level, which is legislation, past and present laws, and the municipal effort, and then the policing strategy. So she's pledged to continue to push the bills going to the Judiciary Committee. She's pledged to work with the, I guess it's called the CORE Act, Organized Crime, John? There's the Organized Crime Act is another area that they're pulling into this area, this property crime area. She's pledged to work with the task force, and she's also made available, she's talked with the State Commissioner James Ravella, who is working in this area, and has offered his assistance, so we could reach out to him. I think Police Chief Custer is going to be taking her up on that offer. And then she's offered to work with bonding monies and grants to get it down to our level, to the police department. And that could translate into the possible purchase of the LPR license plate readers, cameras that are quite expensive because they need to capture the detail. And then other technologies that might be out there. So it was quite productive from the state rep, and we appreciate her attention to this detail.
Wonderful. Excuse me, school liaison. Oh, I'm sorry, Punkage is not even here. So we're going to skip school liaison. Capital Improvements Committee.
We did not have a meeting since the last council meeting. I believe we were trying to reschedule our last capital improvement committee. I didn't receive a date yet though, but I thought we were trying to get it in either late February or March.
Were you looking at February 24th?
Yeah,
okay.
that fourth Wednesday.
February 24th. And is that at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
Wasn't 6 better?
Yes.
For you and Chris? Chris, 6 was better?
Yeah, usually better than 5. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next meeting will be the 24th of February at 6 p.m.
There you go. Okay. And then finally, Economic Development Subcommittee.
No meeting, no report.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, subsection A, approval resolution to execute emergency management of Homeland Security documents.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to execute the emergency management and Homeland Security documents.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then subsection B, approval, resolution to reimburse Board of Education for COVID-19 related expenditures.
And I will make the motion to approve the reimbursement of Board of Education for COVID-19 related expenditures in the amount of $230,179.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to old business. Discussion, possible action of the Community Senior Center. I don't know, John, if you had anything to report on that.
I just got a brief update from Matt at Colliers that the site work has been tabled until spring. Believe it or not, the playground equipment has been installed. The ductwork mains are being installed with branch lines. HVAC ductwork is ongoing. HVAC hydraulic piping is started. The plumbing rough is completed. Interior walls are being insulated and closed. Masonry work has been tabled due to some COBAC impact due to supplies of materials in the cold weather. The light fixtures are being installed, and we have an audio-visual package under contract that's being coordinated, as well as a security package. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business. Discussion, possible action, resolution to participate in Sustainable Connecticut.
And Madam Mayor, I can make a motion to adopt the resolution as sent out by town manager this afternoon. You want me to read that resolution in? I think we all got that email prior to the meeting. John, did everybody get that resolution on sustainable?
I believe so.
Yeah, it says town, okay, I've got the email. So it went to town council, and it's the Town of Rocky Hill resolution supporting participation in Sustainable Connecticut Municipal Certification Program. Whereas Sustainable CT is a comprehensive statewide action-oriented volunteer certification program built by and for municipalities with the vision that sustainable CT communities strive to be thriving, resilient, collaborative, and forward-looking. They build community and local economy. They equitably promote the health and well-being of current and future residents, and they respect the finite capacity of the natural environment. Whereas Sustainable CT is designed to boost local economies, help municipal operations become more efficient, reduce operating costs, and provide grants and additional support to municipalities. Whereas the town of Rocky Hill embraces an ongoing process of working toward greater sustainability, selecting which actions it chooses to pursue from the voluntary menu of actions provided by Sustainable CT. Resolved by the town council of the town of Rocky Hill that we do hereby authorize the town planner to serve as Town of Rocky Hill Sustainable CT contact person for the Sustainable CT municipal certification process, and authorize her to complete municipal registration on behalf of the town of Rocky Hill. Resolved that to focus attention and effort within the town of Rocky Hill on matters of sustainability, and in order to promote the town council local initiatives and actions towards Sustainable CT municipal certification, the town of Rocky Hill Town Council will revise role of the existing plan implementation committee to serve as a sustainability team. Resolved that the first meeting of the sustainability team must be held within 90 days of passing this resolution, and that the sustainability team shall meet as frequently as needed, but no less than quarterly. Resolved that the sustainability team shall report annually to the Rocky Hill Town Council on the progress of its activities towards Sustainable CT certification, with reports and presentations made publicly available. Second.
All right, you heard me though I was muted. Any discussion? Councilor Duff, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think we're all probably on board about this being a good option for the town. I guess one of the questions that I had was more of when we can give the public the green light to start some of their projects. It sounds like, you know, when they give it the flow chart, the first thing is we pass the resolution, then we do some registration. I think it might be helpful is if we had an item on future agendas to have a report, either part of the town manager's report or perhaps the planner should this go through, just to let us know what that progress looks like. It seems like it might take a couple months. I know there's a lot of public interest, so it'd be a good way of getting that information out. I don't know if that'd be more appropriate to do as part of the council level or the subcommittees, but one of the things that we might want to consider.
Good idea. Counselor Manuel, any comment?
No, I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Thoreau, any comment?
Yes, I support it as well.
Okay. Let me ask, is there any counselor who wishes to comment? Okay, we'll just go to vote then. So all in favor of passing this resolution for Connecticut CT? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Discussion and possible action, resolution on public comment for virtual meetings.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on the resolution, passing a resolution on the public comment for virtual meetings found in our packet.
Okay, is there a second? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Town Council Resolution, February 16th, 2021. Public comment at virtual town council meetings. Whereas the Town of Rocky Hill Town Council Rules of Procedures was adopted on June 1st, 2015. Whereas the Town Council held its meetings in the Town Council chamber, the Rules of Procedures state that under public comment, members of the public shall state their name and address and will have the opportunity to comment on agenda and non-agenda issues at the beginning of the meeting for up to 2 minutes. Therefore, be it resolved that the Rocky Hill Town Council approves to have the public comment guidelines that are used for meetings held in the Town Council chamber to be applied to virtual or Zoom meetings, whereby the member of the public must read and state their comments into the public record of the meeting.
I'm muted. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Counselor Duff.
Yeah, one thing I wasn't 100% clear on, and I think some good points are raised that others might speak to, but I don't know if Martha or the town or other council that we have may have reviewed for to see if we need to adhere to anything in terms of ADA or any of those other types of standards that we might be held to for folks who don't have access to a computer. Something that we might want to take a look at if we haven't already done so.
Okay, thank you. My understanding, and Counselor Greenspan, I'm gonna maybe let you speak to this because I think there is there is opportunity to access through phone calls. It's not purely through the computer.
I'd be happy to respond. So we received an email earlier today from Ms. Mariner mentioning that there was some concern about Zoom meetings and people that don't have access via the internet. However, interestingly enough, she was able to send an email, so she had some sort of internet access. But that's not the point. So I reached out to John Murphy, who's our media communications coordinator, runs our meetings. We affectionately refer to as IT John. And John said that as long as an individual requests a meeting link, they can also dial in via telephone. So they don't need Zoom. As long as they have phone access, they can attend the meeting, read their information into the comments, and it would be part of the public record. So the individual doesn't need a computer, doesn't need video, just needs to be able to get a phone number.
Okay. Why don't I just let's continue then with discussion. Counselor Duff, I don't want to shut you off. Or do you have?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Emmanuel.
No, I did have one concern, but I think Councilor Thoreau may elaborate a little bit better.
Okay, Counselor Thoreau.
Okay, I have concerns with the resolution as it is written. Even though some people can't access by telephone, there still are people that are visually impaired or hearing impaired, that become an issue. There's also an issue that not everybody is available at 7 p.m. If we have no speakers by 7:05, you're out of luck if you want to make public comment. So I do get that it's inconvenient. I know when you have to read them and you have to look it up on your screen, that's not, that's not conducive to you're trying to juggle two, and I get that. That's a problem. But I'm concerned about curtailing any access at all. So I would propose an amendment also at live meetings. We have had instances, as Ms. Mariner said, where the clerk has read it in or somebody has designated. I know there was a case where their friend came and read it into the record for them. So what I would propose, two changes. One, to be consistent with the June 1st, 2015, and next to the last line, public must. I think it should be shall, if we want to be consistent. I know it's a picayune, but.
Okay, counselor. That's your job.
And that's what I used to edit.
That's
so
your
yes.
living. Yeah.
And I would also suggest that we say, instead of just the member or their mutually agreed designee. And the reason why I'm saying that is because obviously the person has to, I can't just say, well, the mayor has to read my letter. Well, no, you're not going to agree, but they can find someone that can do that. And I think in the directions, we can explain that's what we mean, that's what I mean by mutually agree. But I think, with that change, that allows everybody an opportunity to have their message into the public.
Mhm.
So I would request that as an amendment.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. And I just want to, put it out there that it really is not about convenience, right? Although, yeah, it is a lot of letters sometimes to read, but my concern is that we're kind of blurring that line that we've established. I mean, we have strict meeting rules, right? And public comment is one of those where we're not supposed to get involved. And that's very intentional. We just kind of sit here right? And so now when we are actually reading that public comment, I feel like we're blurring that line. And that's what my concern is. Are we showing bias? Are we showing, I don't know. Can it be interpreted that way? And so that's my thinking cap.
Yeah, that's a valid point, but I think this, with that change, takes care of that issue.
I agree. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to accept the friendly motion to amend in the third paragraph. Therefore, it be resolved that the Rocky Hill Town Council approves to have the public comment guidelines that are used for meetings held in the town council chambers be applied to any virtual or Zoom meeting whereby the member or their mutually agreed stand-in designee of the public shall read and state their comments into the public record of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to comment? Let me just ask that. I think we're pretty good on this. So are we ready to take a vote? All right. So all in favor of the town council resolution as amended with a friendly amendment by Councilor Thoreau.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Great, wonderful. And now moving on to item C, discussion possible action, Director of Emergency Management position.
Mayor, I don't think we have a resolution or anything like that prepared, but I know what we were hoping to do is make a request of the town manager, town staff to review the position under him of, I guess it's Director of Emergency Management or Manager of the Emergency Management. We were wondering if staff could produce or put a job description as to how that position has evolved over this past year. It became very poignant to us, the value of a point person for the town manager in emergency management issues, coordinating scheduling, directing meetings, getting it done. I know it was extremely helpful to those of us who sat in on emergency operations committee meetings as well as public safety. We asked to add the emergency management position to the public safety agenda on a permanent basis. And so with that in mind, we're wondering, if the town manager could outline to us a job description, so we could have a better understanding of the extent of the position and how much is entailed in it. Currently, that emergency management team, if you will, has drafted a document required by the state that is quite lengthy. It's found on our website, but they have to update that annually. And in any event, I think that's what we're doing, is making an ask to the staff to do a job description for that position.
Yeah, so just historically, to give you some context here, I would like to make a recommendation to the council that we do consider adding this position, because as Deputy Mayor Sharma has explained, because this has been such an unprecedented year, he and I have both been involved with the emergency management operations team. And we're part of those meetings, and there is an emergency management director, but that position is a volunteer position. And that position is also held by someone who has another very critical and very important paying position. And the role of the director of emergency management has become so complex, particularly as a result of the pandemic. And the amount of reporting that is required, the amount of planning and activity, not just specific to the pandemic, but specific to every other matter, whether it's, safety related, weather related, irrespective of what department it may be in or the school system. There's one person who has to be responsible for all of that. And it really has come to our attention that the town would benefit from having a full-time person giving their full commitment to this. So that's the history of the recommendation, and just to ask the town manager to think about putting together a job description that we could take a look at and talk about and move forward. So
just a comment. It's been said that there's been an extraordinary year with the COVID epidemic. In past years, we might have had a major snowstorm or perhaps a tropical storm come up that would really need the emergency management director and the EOC to open up. But as you said, this is an extraordinary year that we were having regular meetings to discuss the COVID situation and so on. But then at some point in time, if the vaccines take hold and so on, the pandemic will drift off and hopefully it'll go back to normal. I'm just saying, you're creating a full-time position for somebody that may not be as busy as just required over the past a year and maybe a few more months going forward and so on. So it's always been in the past a job that was either held by the police chief or someone in the fire department or a public safety volunteer. And again, putting together those manuals and so on and keeping those up to date is a primary function of it. But as I just said, this was active this past year, but when the pandemic dies down and hopefully goes away, will free up a lot of time for that person. And I don't know if it's justifiable to be a full-time position. It's just looking ahead.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Sure, I can appreciate that, John. The pandemic, as a matter of fact, we're meeting now still weekly because specifically from the pandemic, but I know I know that you have a lot on your plate, but I know that as chairman of the committee and on the council, we like to get, certain emergency situation information. There's numerous storms throughout the year. There's at least one power outage, right? And it don't seem like we get through it without a power outage. But there's just numerous situations that play into this. The warming center, the cooling center. If power's knocked out, a place to go until power's on. Command of the center. We've not been able to do our tabletop management, emergency management mock event. We need to get that back on the agenda and have one of those. There's some other things I think that we're not doing, providing up to the state that we might be able to get caught up on. So I hear you. We may not have an all-out emergency management situation like we do with this pandemic, but it's also not going away anytime soon. My concern is if we suddenly have on these variants, we have a number of police officers and fire offline, and we have some other things going on. And we're trying to mobilize ourselves and communicate. The communication has been excellent coming out of the Emergency Operations Committee, and we don't want to make another meeting for these guys to go to, but boy, it certainly helped us understand what was going on and help us address residents' concerns. So we could say that we firsthand were able to meet with in the Zoom format with ambulance and know that they have plenty of personal protection. Same thing with police, same thing with fire. It's always a blessing when they give their report and there's only one or none out with COVID. But that wasn't always the case when it was real touch and go. So, and I just don't see the COVID tension going away for another year or so. I do think that and we're not the scientists here, that the vaccines are going to start driving the numbers down. I know that the infection rate is now down below 3 in the state. We're doing well, but I still think there's plenty to do for that emergency management team, and it's a good idea for us to scope it out in any event, I think.
Okay.
Councillor Thoreau, do you want to chime in?
No, I think it makes sense to scope it out and see what we can do, and then we can determine if it would be a permanent position. It could be some kind of contract type position that it would be as needed or something. So when we get the specs and what might be needed, and I think we can discuss that further.
Okay. Councillor Emmanuel?
Yeah, I think this, for me personally, this would be a tough sell. We're looking at a new position that's probably starting in the low 6 digits with benefits. I agree with what Ed was saying. I've been through it, but it's kind of like spiking with different emergencies going on at various times. So we could get through COVID, and it could be a couple of years before something else occurs that would warrant, a full-time position. I'd like to see, as part of this due diligence, I'd like to see what other towns have in terms of their emergency management. If the police chief covers it, if the fire chief or fire marshal cover it, and also some information from the police department as to how James Bellinger, how much time he spends on it per week or per month, so we can get a little more clarity.
Okay, good. Councillor Duff?
Yeah, I think Ed's done a good job of illustrating that we have a need. And the question is, how do we kind of fit that need within our means? And, like John, this might just be because, I'm where I'm one of my experiences in the corporate sector, but if I see director, it's someone making six figures, they're getting benefits, they might have people reporting to them. So it's a pretty good investment for the town, especially as we're looking at, maybe investing other areas. So, right now it's more of a role than like a full-time or, a position that we have an FTE for. So maybe it'd be a question of making it full-time, but someone who doesn't have as many duties, or reallocating that somehow. There also might be, I agree that, COVID is probably not the end of the road for emergencies. I mean, we're going to see a lot of uncertainty coming with climate change, if it's extreme weather, or if it's other things. Maybe it's an opportunity to regionalize. I don't know how you would operationally do it, but if we looked at some of the models like the 5-town task force that came up, or like the health district, between maybe one town of 20,000 people doesn't need a full-time emergency director, but maybe a couple towns of 20,000 people do. And if there's a way to pool our resources in a more of a shared model, that might be something to explore. Again, harder to get there, and all the details, but might be something where, we don't want a highly paid town employee without a lot on their plate. So maybe there's some opportunity there to get creative. I echo Councilor Manuel's idea, like where, we can look at, see what other towns are doing and how they're meeting this need as well. Because I think there's a need here. Just how do we fill it within our means?
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Councilor Greenspan.
Sure. No, I appreciate the comments from my fellow councilors on this. I think the basic ask here is to develop an outline of what the position would look like. There's a couple of concerns on my end. I mean, this pandemic has been a long road. When this came out in March, I thought by June we'd be behind it and life would go back to normal. And here we have individuals that are operating in a role continually while still doing their full-time position. So we want to make sure, we don't create a situation where we don't burn somebody out or lose somebody from a position that currently is needed. But I think by developing an outline of what a position should look like, and then figuring out, is it something that we need as a town? Do we do it regionally? Those are valid questions, and they're budgetary constraints. But there has to be a first step, and I think that step is to develop a draft of what the position should be.
Okay, thank you. And then Councilor Levine, would you like to say anything?
Probably just kind of echo what some of the folks have said, fellow councilors. Everyone's made some pretty good points. I'd be interested in, at least going through the study to see what the position would look like. And then we can determine if it's full-time, or if we try to partner with another town, or maybe there's other duties from other folks. We can lighten their loads a little bit to make this the full-time position, then make those other jobs run more efficiently, as they can do some things maybe they haven't gotten to, especially during types of the pandemic and other times of emergencies. So we're in an exploratory phase. I think it's a good idea to at least take a good hard look at, and then we'll kind of see where the research leads us.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to the mayor's report. So I'm just going to keep it very, very short and just talk COVID numbers. So posted today on portalct.gov, the state's positive cases were at 270,822. Notably, the daily positivity rate is 2.83%. So 2.83%, it's going down. Still need to be, as Charlie Brown said from Central Connecticut Health District, very mindful of wearing your mask and social distancing and washing your hands. But I don't want to jinx it, but things seem to be getting a little bit better. Currently hospitalized, there are 606, which is down by about 12 people. The state also puts together what they call a town map, and that tracks COVID in your town over a 2-week period. Unfortunately, then that data is a week delayed in getting out. So, but they did put up numbers for the reporting period 1/24, so January 24th. And in that 1 week, we saw 56 cases here. And then in week 2, which would have been February 6th, that week, we saw 37 cases here. So again, even in our town, those numbers are trending down a little bit. So a little bit of positive news there. And that's the end of my report. And we'll move on now to the town manager's report.
Okay, I just have a couple items. Just a brief update on our landfill closure. The owners, Meadow Properties, did submit a revised closure plan on January 20th to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP. It's the revised plan. Their initial plan was submitted back in January of 2018, and then it followed with comments from DEEP on a letter that was dated March 27th, 2019. So at this point, DEEP has just received this 850-page closure plan, and the town is starting to work with the town attorney that's overseeing this closure plan, and hopefully he'll be contacting the Meadows property people to see what their plans are, and then we'll try to get an update from the state on the status. But remember, this is the state of Connecticut. When this plan comes in, it probably goes into a stack with other ones, and things probably don't move along quickly as they have in sometime in the past. Also, you have the COVID situation where holding meetings, public forums, and so on are difficult for large groups and so on. So we are working with them, and we do have a firm that we've used in the past to help us out on some of the technical issues. But I think as of right now, it's in the court of DEEP for their review and comments, and timing is questionable. It could be longer than normal and so on. But we are in contact with our town attorney that will monitor this for us and provide guidance down the road.
John, I have a question on that.
Yes.
Is there like a comment period, or is the attorney going to let us know? Is there a comment period that I assume we have standing to comment?
At some point in time, they need to have a public comment meeting, and that will be held at some point in time.
Who is
and I'm not sure whether the state drives that and how and when they want to have it, whether they want to have it virtual and jeopardize having people come in and put up other things and commentary and so on. But there is a public comment period that will have to take place at some point in time.
Okay, but we'll be notified.
Who is they, John?
They, well, part of the process is to have this public comment.
They have public comment. Who's they?
DEEP.
DEEP. Okay, thank you.
I believe DEEP generates the meeting, and comments can be made, and then I guess the Meadows would have to answer any questions that are brought up. But again, this is a large document going to the state, and I'm sure it's not the only project they have to work on, and to go through 850 pages will take some time.
Do we know if they were, because this is, I mean, it seems like they have submitted multiple closure plans in the past. We did have a public meeting in town a number of years ago. Do we know if the new submission has incorporated the comments from that last meeting or responded to them?
We hope so. A lot of the comments that I think they addressed were also from DEEP as well. So I would assume the public comment was incorporated into probably into the plan.
But that would be one of the things that our lawyers evaluated.
Yeah. Okay, the Strasker Farm, we have boarded up the windows and the doors and secured it. And now we're in the process of turning off the utilities. I believe we got the electricity shut down. I guess we got to work on a couple of the other ones. And then hopefully we're going to get a couple other interested people that want to take out the equipment and the garbage to come out and take a look at it this week and hopefully give us a quote so that we'll have a few quotes to review to determine the cost of the cleanup from the equipment and vans and trucks and so on, as well as the removal of the house. Also, the zoning people are working with the owner of the property across the street, working a time schedule to get rid of some of the items on that property that were transferred over from the Strasker Farm, and in which the owner of the property did receive some zoning infraction tickets. The town did get, the governor did give a speech last week about the state budget, and we did get an update on the state grants that we get from that budget, and the numbers all agree with the same amount that we got this current year. So there's no changes there. The only change involves the Board of Education. With the stimulus package that was passed back in like December 20th, 27th, they added something called EASER 2 Fund, which is Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. And this one was the one that was included in the bill that was passed back in at the end of the year last year. The Board of Ed would be getting over the next 2 years about $886,000 to apply from that EASER fund. And the money's going to be administered by a department of the State of Education. So the Board of Ed would have to apply for that money and explain what the monies are going to be used for and so on. So I think they could have 2 years to spend it. So I think it's anything related to education, as well as possibly the ventilation system in the schools and so on. But again, it's money available, but they have to apply and get accepted. Their project has to get accepted for it. So it's not really money similar to the grants where we're getting like the ECS, but it's money that the board can apply towards their educational operation. And then the library has some updates that the library participated in the 10th annual Take Your Child to the Library Day on February 6th. This year's theme was Take the Library to Your Child. Activities were held for all ages, including issuing library cards, hosting a virtual sing-along concert, bingo, scavenger hunts, kids crafts. Over 100 children participated. The library is also increasing outreach to preschool families. Across the country, pre-K enrollment is down 18 to 34%. Libraries are playing an important role to ensure that children are kindergarten ready. In addition to several preschool Zoom programs hosted a week, the library has created an early literacy calendar with book recommendations along with learning activities. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
But